She edits Sex, Etc., a national sexual health magazine and website written by teens for teens. Her work has appeared in the anthology What Your Mama Never Told You, and she's currently at work on a novel. Welcome, Lucinda.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to read from a novel I'm working on. Some of you may have attended reading before. You heard a portion of this, but you don't remember it. It's on the fresh room, and then there's some new material. So here we go. When Lola walked into the hospice reception area, she mused over what sort of reception one gets when you arrive at a place where all you do is wait for people to die. The hospice wasn't hospital-like. It didn't have the things Lola associated with hospitals: the clinical fluorescent lights, the beeping machines, or that faint smell of sanitizer mixed with urine, the whole experience of which is supposed to somehow reassure you that someone in that place can fix whatever is wrong with you. There was none of that in hospice. No one was pretending that any of the patients would somehow be well one day or ever walk out of this building alive. There was just a sense that in their own limited way, the people who worked here would make you comfortable while you waited for death, yours or someone else's. So it made sense that this place seemed more like a way station or a hotel, not a high-end hotel, nothing fancy, and definitely not a motel, but something sort of mid-range, with a front desk and these mauve cushioned chairs in the entrance waiting area and big potted plants that might or might not be fake. It was in this place that Lola had come to support and comfort her mother, who was waiting for Ernest to die. Ernest was a family friend. He had been Lola's father's best friend. Ernest had been there when Lola's father died. Lola wondered if she got some sort of points for showing up now to see Ernest. Lola needed points. On her best days, she was a good enough mother to her son Ralph and an indifferent wife to her husband Monty. On her worst days, she resented her husband Monty for expecting her to be some sort of biblical helpmate, a sidekick, a maid, chef, whore. 15 years ago, Lola had married Montgomery A. Ward, Monty to his family and friends, a rather ordinary man who believed he needed and deserved some sort of mid-20th century ideal of a wife. Being that wifely ideal was something that Lola had tried and failed at, and out of resentment, Lola did things she wasn't proud of. When her coworker texted her flirtatiously, she flirted back because she liked the attention. Who doesn't like attention? And just last night, when Darren asked for pictures of her feet, she didn't hesitate to send them. Is it sexting if you send photos of your feet? When he began to give her art direction, to ask for better lighting and more of the soles of her feet in the photos, Lola complied, or tried to comply, contorting her body to get just the right shot of her decently pedicured, sandal-ready feet. And when Lola's photo elicited a dick pic from Darren, she suddenly felt very tired and just wanted to crawl into bed. She had no desire to see Darren's semi-erect penis in a photo. Perhaps a more erect penis would have been a boost to her 42-year-old ego. But this photo seemed like the best one could expect from a man of a certain age who was likely on blood pressure medication. Not wanting to insult Darren and having no experience with dick pics, Lola had sent the word nice in response to the photo and immediately regretted the exclamation point. It was too much and clearly read as disingenuous. It was this sort of behavior that had Lola agreed to show up at hospice when her mother had called and asked her to come. Going to hospice would reassure Lola that she was indeed the decent person she thought of herself as. She imagined that volunteering to come to this death hotel balanced out the side of the cosmic scales weighted down by little miserable things, like texting photos of her feet to a coworker. Lola was adding weight to the noble, magnanimous side, and this lightened her mood. She smiled and said thanks to the two women sitting at reception where she signed in. And then Lola wondered if the smile was too much, the wrong demeanor for hospice. Should she be wearing a more dour face for this occasion? Lola knew sitting at Ernest's deathbed would be enough to wipe the smile off her face. Death, like birth, can be messy and undignified. What else would one expect from a process that squeezes people into and out of being? When Lola walked into Ernest's room, he was not dead, but he was unconscious, and perhaps would never be conscious again, which for all intents and purposes rendered him no longer with the living. But his body wasn't still in that quiet, sleeping state that is used to portray death or near death on TV. Ernest's body occasionally shook rather vigorously, the vestiges of life shaking free from someone who was now no more than an emaciated collection of bones covered in ashen brown skin. He was literally closing in on himself, gathering up into some final fetal position as all of his organs shut down. This was not the well-dressed, handsome man Lola had known in life. Lola's mother was sitting in a chair at Ernest's bedside. Ernest had never married and had no children that Lola knew of. She'd wondered if he were gay. But Ernest was not gay. In fact, Lola's mother was about to tell Lola that Ernest was actually Lola's father. But Lola won't remember the words her mother said. Lola's mother, ever the stoic, simply said that she'd gotten pregnant with Lola just before she married the man Lola had thought was her father, the man Lola had grown up loving and calling Daddy. There weren't any tears on Lola's mother's part, which Lola will hold against her mother when she looks back at this moment. Seared in Lola's memory is just Ernest, shriveled on the bed and still. At some point during Lola's mother's confession, Ernest had stopped trembling, died. The man, a family friend, now her father, who had been there for every birthday party, dance recital, and play, as well as Christmas and graduation, was gone. Lola had been friendly with Ernest, but had never paid him a lot of attention. He was just her father's friend. That she'd basically ignored Ernest, her father, her entire life because her mother never told her who he was, made Lola hot with anger, like a sun was trapped in her chest and emanating through her skin. Lola also felt ashamed that the plot of her life from conception was some sort of made-for-TV drama. Lola won't remember the person who came in and noted her father's time of death, or the drive from hospice to her mother's house. Lola will remember her mother's words, "I know I should have told you sooner." But that line seemed to Lola to apply when you forget to tell someone to make a right at the next light, but not when it came to telling someone who her father was. Lola then drove to a grocery store, where she stood in the aisle with the adult diapers, which made her think of the urine bag that had been hanging from the side of Ernest's bed. She started to do Kegels because she didn't want to be an old woman who pisses herself or has to stroll down the adult diaper aisle trying to choose the best bladder leakage underwear. But Lola knew this could happen, which sent her into a frenzy of Kegels. That honorable-like feeling she had several hours ago when she walked into hospice was gone, replaced by a void that Lola planned to fill with things she didn't realize existed, or that she desperately needed until she walked into this vast temple of food. Gluten-free, white and black, dark chocolate drizzled popcorn made from non-GMO corn. She threw 4 bags into her cart because they were on sale, 2 for $4.99. And this is how it works, right? You fill that hole in your face, and it filters through and comes out the other end. You do this trying to stave off the inevitable. Lola didn't realize it, but this was her first stage of grief, hoarding. Though truth be told, her grief would not proceed in stages like some orderly steps in a manual. Her grief would be an unpredictable beast, at turns raging and weeping and calm, and right now it was ravenous. Lola piled things in her cart, going up and down, aisle after aisle, getting lost in the excess, until she found herself in the checkout line, placing packages and plastic bags and boxes and jars and containers on the conveyor belt, hearing that beep as a white, blank-faced teenage girl scanned each item. Finally, the girl said, "Your total is $402.25. Lola was stunned and wondered how she had spent so much money while thinking to herself, "I'm just going to pick up a few things." And that's when Lola noticed the boy, a young man really, in his early 20s maybe, packing her groceries into bags. The odd thing, or perhaps given Lola's state, it wasn't odd, was that this boy looked exactly like Ernest. The boy did not have some vague resemblance to Ernest. No, Lola would say that this was Ernest. Lola didn't want to stare, but she was staring, and she pushed her card into the credit card reader. The boy felt her staring. He glanced up from the bag he was carefully packing and offered a quick smile. This was not the 70-year-old Ernest, the father Lola had just seen a few hours ago ravaged by death. This was a very live, healthy, smooth-faced young man with perfect teeth and big molasses eyes, earnest eyes. He was tall and slender, Lola didn't recall Ernest being quite this tall, but maybe it was age that had made Ernest seem smaller. Perhaps it was the boy's dreads, held together by a red, black, and green band on the top of his head, that gave him a few inches of extra height. Lola closed her eyes, knowing that she was having some sort of emotional reaction, one she couldn't acknowledge in a grocery store in the checkout line, one she pushed to the periphery of her consciousness. She batted her eyes quickly to keep the feelings at bay, at least until she made it to the car. But her body betrayed her. Her face was wet with tears. She took the receipt from the cashier and tried to quickly head out of the store, but there was no moving quickly with a heavily laden cart of groceries and one other cart waiting behind you. The experience of seeing her young father in a grocery store should be chalked up to some freak thing, a trick of the grieving imagination that Lola could tell her husband Monty about later when she gets home. But Lola had trouble getting out of the store. As she began to push her cart to get away, she got lightheaded and felt like her cart was listing to the left. But what was happening really was that Lola was leaning to the right, falling as she and her cart careened into a 10-foot-high display of seltzer with a hint of raspberry. Her cart, shoulder, and head made contact with the stacks of cardboard containing 24 packs of seltzer that came raining down around her. As the cans hit the ground, they dented, sprung holes, and squirted seltzer all around Lola and her cart. For a moment, Lola wasn't sure what happened. When she realized she'd fallen into a display at the store, she considered playing dead or unconscious for a split second. She felt the wet stickiness of the seltzer in her hair and on her back. A few of the mangled cardboard seltzer containers were on top of her, and she felt a slight pain in her back because she was lying on another case of seltzer. Lola is not typically a crier, but the tears kept coming and devolved into a big, snotty-nosed toddler cry. And there was Ernest, the ghost, the boy, the vision, Lola wasn't sure which, digging her out. As he helped Lola to her feet, she was aware that in this moment, she was someone she did not want to be, a person who knocks over displays and cries in grocery stores. This was not the low-maintenance, no-fuss version of herself that she'd held for as long as she could remember, because there was fuss now. There was the store manager, a worried-looking white woman with short, crunchy blonde hair, the accident report, the statements from the other shoppers who'd seen what happened, and photos of the accident area, and Lola's shoes. The boy brought her a bottle of water and sat with her on a bench near the manager's office. Lola just wanted to leave the slight soreness in her back, the throbbing in her head, the swelling of her eyes, the stickiness of seltzer in her hair, and leave this boy with hands that looked like hers. Lola managed a quick thank you. She stood up, laid her hands in the cart she'd been pushing, and started out the store. "Excuse me, ma'am, you're forgetting these." The boy came up alongside Lola, pushing the other groceries. Lola didn't want to look at him. She didn't want to see Ernest's young face. "I'll take it from here." "But you've got 2 carts," he said. "I can help you to your car." Lola was feeling slightly dizzy again. Images shifted in and out of focus. The sliding doors in front of her, the cars in the parking lot in the distance, the memory of a photograph of Ernest and her parents at their wedding, a photo she'd looked at many times. In the photograph on the left is the man she'd always known, his dad, and loved. Her mother's in the center, face shining, eyes opened wide in slight surprise, teeth showing, mouth upturned in what wants to be a smile but isn't really. And then there's Ernest on the right, the person your eyes are drawn to in the photo. He's wearing a burgundy tuxedo with a ruffled dress shirt, a bold choice for a wedding. But maybe that was typical in the late 70s. Ernest's face looks honest. There's no forced smile for the camera. There's just Ernest looking straight ahead. Lola let this image go and made her way through the store's sliding doors, swaying a bit behind half her load of groceries. But where was her car? She stood scanning the parking lot, but she couldn't recall anything about her car in the moment. She choked out a few words. I don't know where my car is." The young man is still there at her side. "It's all right, we'll find it. You drove here, right?" he asked, half joking, then chuckled. Lola nodded and said, "Yeah, it's a silver car. And then she spotted her car to the far right of the lot. This would have been the end of this episode, an episode Lola would try to quickly forget. But once he helped her fill her trunk in the back seat with bags, he said, "Are you okay to drive?" Lola was not okay to drive. "You want to call someone to pick you up, maybe?" Lola called Monty, and once she heard his voice, she knew she couldn't tell him everything that had happened, that she'd been sexting with Darren, so she had to go to hospice, and at hospice her mother told her Ernest was her father, and now she was crying in an apartment with a 20-something-year-old Ernest. The thought of sharing any of these things with Monty, or anyone else, made Lola feel weepy all over again, so she told the only truth she could. "I'm not okay." Monty was on his way to pick her up. The young man stood there the whole time, looking off in the distance, pretending not to listen to the conversation Lola just had. And now Lola was ready for this witness of her humiliation to leave. And then Ernest said, "Life happens in parking lots. People deliver babies, break legs, get shot, all sorts of stuff. I can't just leave you out here like that." Lola nodded. She wasn't sure where this was going. He extended a large, elegant hand toward her. "Easy." "Easy? That's my name. That's what my mother named me, and it's not short for Ezekiel, and I'm not named after that detective character. My mother says I was an easy delivery. Getting me here is easy." And she wanted a son who had an easy life. Lola was staring again, noticing the differences and similarities between 70-year-old Ernest and Easy. Ernest never wore earrings, but Easy had diamond studs in his ears. Ernest wore a close cut, a Caesar, for the last 20 years. Easy had dreads on the top of his head and a fade around the sides and back. "You look so much like someone I know." This should have been the end of Lola and Easy, the Good Samaritan who waited in a parking lot with a distressed middle-aged woman. But this can't be the end for Lola, because Lola doesn't know what to do with the fact that her mother told her that the man she called Daddy her whole life was not in fact her father, and that her family friend who died while she stood at his bedside listening to her mother confess all of this was indeed her father. And then there was Lola's feelings about this. Lola had never been good with feelings, and were she a more reasonable person, she would find a good therapist. Or perhaps she would join one of those not expected parent social media groups for people who learn through DNA tests that their parent is not their parent. And then she could commiserate online with other people about her feelings of loss and betrayal. But none of those things happened. "Come with me to make the arrangements. It'll be good for you," said Lola's mother when they spoke on the phone. Lola can't imagine a world where picking out a casket is good for you. And she's annoyed by her mother's tone. Lola hears a should in "come with me to make the arrangements." "I can't," Lola told her mother, which was a lie. Lola felt no remorse in lying to her mother, and then she retreated into silence, a little cave where she was kept warm by the meager heat of her self-righteous anger. And while Lola's mother looked at caskets and made arrangements for Ernest's funeral, Lola stalked Easy. Lola would never call herself a stalker, but there's no more precise word to describe what she did. She waited in her car outside the grocery store. She felt a jolt of excitement when Easy walked out of the store and got into a blue Subaru. This surprised Lola, as Ernest had always been a Cadillac man. She followed Easy a mile and a half to an apartment complex. And when she got a text from Monty asking when she would be home, she wondered what she was doing waiting outside for Easy, a stranger really, to come out of his apartment. What would she do when he came out of his apartment? Hop out of the car and wave at him, "Hey, it's me, the crazy lady who crashed into the Zelda display at the grocery store?" Lola was suddenly ashamed of her stalking stage of grief. But then there was Easy bounding out of his apartment in a t-shirt and basketball shorts. In that moment, Lola decided that following him, wherever he was going, was not such a bad idea, and definitely not stalking.